Okay, so we are at the on the last morning Mishlei shiur of the season, and it's appropriate because we're at the end of chapter 14. So I just want to do a state of the Mishlei report first. Okay, so we have after we finish this and after we finish the last pasuk in chapter 13 on Monday, we will have been done with chapters 10 through 14, done with chapters 18 through 24. Okay. Chapters 1 through 9 are the intro, which is, it's its own animal. Really chapters 25 through 31 will be our I guess, for later. Okay, this is the Mishlei written by, transcribed by Anshe Chizkiyahu. See, it's hard for me not to write it with a K now. What? Yeah, and then 31, 10 through the end is Asher Kyle, which we've also done. Okay, so what remains for next year, the goal for next year is, so with Koheles, I teach the intro and the conclusion, and I call the inside the dark interior of the Koheles continent, because I have no idea what's going on there. This, though, is, so chapters 15 through 17 is the juicy center. Okay, Mishlei, the reason why I started off at YBT in 2020 teaching from 18 is because I think most of the pasukim that I draw from for my high school curriculum are, for some weird reason, in chapters 15 through 17. Okay, so the goal for next year is going to be to complete the juicy center of Mishlei, which we'll start on in the summer with my Monday night Mishlei shiur. I don't know which chapter we'll do, but that's the,
Why not 15?
Or 17, minus 17. I don't know. Either way, it's, yeah.
Numerical order.
Well, I feel like we need continuity in one of them, and so
Right.
whatever we want to do. Okay, so that's the plan.
So
all right.
Doing 2 years from now.
Well, there's still chapters 25 through.
Okay, so we do that.
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, those are good Mishlei also, but it's just those are much simpler in terms of structure. So yeah. Okay, so Mishlei 14, 35. Ritzon melech le'eved maskil ve'evraso tihye mevish. Okay, and just a little hint here, mevish is a noun, not a verb. So how do you translate it?
The will or favor or desire of a king.
Yeah, I'm gonna do it in this order. Favor, will. Let's do favor, desire, will, because I think the primary meaning of ratzon in Tanakh Hebrew is favor. I'm just gonna check that out. Hold on just a second. Where are we here? 14. Ratzon, according to the BDB, goodwill, favor, acceptance, will. Yes, they also put it first. I don't know if that really matters, but that's also goodwill, favor, acceptance, and then will, desire, or pleasure is the third meaning. Yeah. Okay. So the favor, desire, will of the king, you said? Of a king. Go ahead.
Sorry, can someone else take over?
Okay, sure.
An intelligent slave
is li-eved maskil.
Oh, enlightens a slave.
Li
is toward
an intelligent. Let's use servant just because I don't want to refine I know it's Juneteenth, but I don't want to say I don't want to limit it to slave. The evraso tihi and mevish, and evra is milashon evra vakas.
His anger.
And his anger
Will come. Like
tihia will be, and then mevish is a noun, not a verb.
Embarrassed.
That would be busha. Mevish.
Embarrassed.
Close.
Like that.
Will be an embarrassing person. Okay. I'm just going to say person in brackets because I'm not sure who the person is. Okay. So we've got here Mitzus Tion, which we read. Sadigon's Targum says Evraso tihi al hamevish. Okay, so he adds the word will be upon, and I think that you have to put a word in there. Like, it doesn't mean it will be embarrassing person, so you have to put some sort of preposition there. So I'm going to go ahead and put that in the main translation. Because I always forget to do the Targum, I decided I'm just going to start translating ahead of time. Okay, so I'm pretty sure this is the right translation. Re'usei de Malka, so Re'usei is the word for Ratzon. of the king, bi'avda suchlasana, is with or on an intelligent servant. Uvisurchane yivahasun. Okay. So I think surchane means like his badness or his iniquities. Okay. Like sirchon. Yeah, I think it's related to that. I don't know which one came from which one, but yeah. And I think yivahasun is they will fear him, but it might be they will intimidate. But I think they will fear him. Makes more sense, and the him is not really stated there. Okay, so I'm not 100% confident in this translation, but that's what I got here. Okay, then we've got Art Scroll, which is a little disappointing. The favor of a king will be upon the wise servant. It really, really upsets me when knowledge words are used indiscriminately. We have a word for wise servant, which is chacham, so I don't know why to do this. But his wrath will be upon the shameful one. Okay, shameful one is a good translation, yeah.
Speaking of using knowledge words indiscriminately,
Yeah.
The way that I found myself wanting to translate Evan Moskiel was discerning.
Yeah. So that I would actually, what do you call, accept as possible. Okay.
Yeah.
Seichel is one of the harder ones to translate. Okay. So I'm gonna go ahead and delete Art Scroll. Reverse. I don't know where reverse gets this either. Let the king favor the servant who represents wisdom. He also does wisdom and who represents wisdom, and be wrathful to the one who betrays his confidence. I'm going to assume this is some sort of Hersheian, like he's getting this from somewhere, and it's not for us. Altars is a king's pleasure, and it's using the word pleasure here, not in the sense of like oneg. This is like people in the White House say, I serve at the pleasure of the president. So meaning like ratzon is a discerning. There you go, Isaac. Discerning servant. Altar agrees with you. But his wrath is the shameful man. Okay, so Alter does preserve the lack of preposition, right? He doesn't insert upon or on. So we'll keep him here because this is another possible candidate. Okay, so what are the questions here?
Possible alternative.
You're the first person to ever make that joke about his name. It's an alter joke, yeah. All right. So what's the what are the questions?
What does it mean?
Good question. We've really remembered how to learn from Mishlei.
Do we want to do the definition questions?
Yeah, so we need to define, I guess, what does Evid mean in this context? What was that?
Moskiel.
Yeah, what does Moskiel mean in this context? And then what does Mavish mean in this context? Yeah, so Evra, I actually want to maybe divide into more nuanced questions. We'll see. Yeah, Isaiah?
Ever means like transgression.
I don't think it ever does. I think Avera would be transgression, but I think Evra is always wrath. Let me check that out. I think that's why Tzien says Lashon Evra, because overflow, arrogance, fury, outburst, arrogance, overflowing rage, fury.
Okay.
Yeah. Obviously it's the same shoresh, but yeah, Isaiah.
Yeah. So I feel like a big question is who's the audience in this pasuk?
Yeah,
Like is it talking to the king or the servant?
The intended audience. Okay, the king, the servant, or someone else. Yeah. Ezra.
Why is the king favor intelligent servant, and
Yeah.
why is his anger on embarrassing person?
Right. Okay. So why is a king's actually we do have to define ratzon here, right? What does ratzon mean in this context? And then why does a king favor an intelligent an Evan Moskiel? Okay, and then I'm also gonna throw in there like
What's the havamina?
Yeah, what's the havamina, right? Well, here's the funny thing, right? What's the havamina? Or this is obvious. Okay, meaning I think like you can make I guess those are both the same thing. What's the havamina? Or is this really true? Right? Because you could think that like maybe he wants an obedient servant, something like that. Yeah, maybe you don't want an intelligent servant. Yeah.
What's the
I realize my brain short circuited here because there's two Ezra sitting in the same spot. Yeah.
who's the malach in this case?
Yeah. Who's the melech in this case? What kind of melech are we talking about? Yeah, and when I say what kind of melech are we talking about? Because I guess if you are talking about a literal king, is this every king? Yeah, say, is this every king or a certain kind of king? And then the usual question is, well, okay, king in what capacity? Okay, like leader, judge, person with absolute power. Okay, there's different ways it could be cast, and then how far beyond literal king does this extend, right? Because that's a move that we often make of psukim about kings often extend beyond that. Yeah, Michael?
When we say he's an Eved Maskil, does that mean he's generally speaking an intelligent person, or specifically in his role as an Eved?
Okay, yeah, that's another good question. Okay, so let's say what specifically is, actually, I'm gonna just make this like this. What specifically is an Eved Maskil? So what does Eved mean? What does Maskil mean? And is the Seichel I guess limited to his role as Eved, or is he a Maskil in general who happens, and the pasuk is just talking, whatever. Let's put it this way. Okay. Yeah. Ariel?
Yeah, how are the two paths opposite?
Yeah. Right. So you've got Ratzon and Evra are definitely opposites, but the Eved, Maskil, and Mevish are the ones that I feel like are, need to be opposites.
Yeah, like it should be dumb person, I think.
Right. How are Eved, Maskil, and Mevish opposites? Right. It should be, foolish, Eved. Okay. Or
Epic seal or something.
what was that?
I said like epic seal or something.
Right, epic seal, or what would be the opposite of Mevish?
Respectable.
Yeah, mechubad, right? Like Eved Nechbad.
Yeah.
Nechbad. For some reason, I think Nechbad is more accurate than mechubad in Tanakh Hebrew, but I don't know. I can't explain why. Did you also have a question?
That was my
Oh, that was a question. Yeah, David.
Goes on so far as the lack of opposites, that the second half isn't an embarrassing servant particularly.
Oh, that's a good question. Right. So I'm gonna tack this onto here. Okay. Is this like a Mevish in general, or specifically an Eved Mevish? Because you could say that it doesn't need to say Eved, right? Just like actually, hold on, I think I have a counterproof to that reading. Not that this is absolute proof, but in 10:5. Oger, so here, Oger Bakait Ben Maskil, Nirda Makate Ben maybe. So it does say the word Ben, but that's not necessarily a raya. Yeah.
Sorry, also with that, Mavish to who?
Right. Okay, so Mavish to who? Yeah. Koppel. Yeah.
Just wait. Yeah, so first, I asked before why his wrath will be on a Mevish.
Oh, right. Why? Let's see here. Why is the king's wrath on a Mevish?
And the second question is there any decision making you can get from this?
Yeah.
Or is this just don't be
Okay, right. What is the practical decision making advice? And that's going to have to follow from what the stance we take on 9. Yeah, David.
Following Ezra Koppel's question as well, is this, as far as what is the scenario? Is this like specifically in the decision making that we're getting? Is this specifically in front of the king, or like a general?
Yeah.
Is this going to apply to any scenario, even now in front of the king, that we can learn from how to act in front of the king?
What is the decision making scenario? Okay. Is this specifically in front of, or say like, or in service of a king, or can this be extended beyond? Actually, I'm gonna, for some reason in my mind, this is no, it'll be his own question. Never mind. Yeah.
Did you ask who the audience is?
Yeah. Is it the king, the servant, or someone else? Yeah. Okay, hold on. Do we have all of them? Raton Melech, Eved Maskil, Evraso, Tihye Mevish. A stylistic question here, which is why is the first half expressed without tense, and the second half is in the future tense. Again, I'm not so concerned with that question, but it is weird.
Also, why is there no explanation of the relationship between the Evra and the English? Like, there's no.
Oh, the preposition?
Preposition,
Yeah,
yeah.
right. Yeah, I'll yeah. What I guess where is, I guess what do we make of the lack of preposition in the second half? Yeah. And what do you say after that?
That's why 12 is in italics.
Why it's an I usually put stylistic questions,
Okay.
purely stylistic questions in italics. Yeah. Okay. All right, I think that's good. Yeah.
So I have
Good,
an
yeah.
explanation of what the opposites are.
Yeah.
The Evid in the first half is a good Mishlei actor.
Okay.
And the Evid in the second half is a bad Mishlei actor.
Okay.
So a bad Mishlei actor is going to make bad decisions, which is going to reflect poorly on the king because his Evid is being done,
Yeah.
and so he's going to be angry at that.
Yeah.
Conversely, an Evid who is intelligent, meaning like making good decisions.
Yeah.
He's gonna show favor to that person because that makes him look good.
Right. Okay, good. So I also was thinking that you have to pull the ABCD move here.
Mhm.
Okay. So for those who are not familiar with ABCD move, it's been a while since we've reviewed it. So let's just quickly review it. Since I have this open already. Mishlei Ben Chacham Yisamach of actually I'll show you inside. So you have first pasuk in Mishlei 10 says Ben Chacham Yisamach Av, a wise son causes his father to rejoice, uben ksil tugas imo, and a foolish son is his mother's sorrow. Okay, so I know the Meiri says this, but the Meiri is not on here. So I think Ibn Kaspi say it. Okay, fine. So I think someone else says this, but I'll just say the Meiri Balpeh. So the Meiri says that you could read this as, you have a subject and a predicate in each one, right? A is B and C is D. So either you read it as Davka A is B and Davka C is D, okay, meaning that the Ben Chacham brings simcha to his father, but not his mother, and the Ben Ksil is the sorrow of his mother, not his father. Or what it really means is a Ben Chacham is Yisamach of the aim, and Ben Ksil is the tuga of the aim. And the other example the Meiri brings is Or Zaru ala Tzadik Uli Yishra Lev Simcha. So light is sown for the righteous, and joy for the upright of heart. So that also either is stating a truth about the tzaddik separately from Yishra Lev, or it's both to both. Okay, and we call this ABCD because you have to do the 4 components. So here you can say I guess the actors in the pasuk are the Mishlei Chacham and Mishlei Chul. Okay, and I'm going to start with the second half. I think is easier. Is the second half is saying that because the Eved acts foolishly, okay, opposite of the maskil, he brings shame to the king. The first half is saying that because the Eved acts intelligently, he brings kavod to the king, okay, opposite of Mavish, right? So you infer, actually, this is not really ABC. This is what I mean by this. Sorry, I should have said it's the ABCD puzzle. It is the wrong thing. We need to come up with another name for this, where you infer the opposites from the unstated opposites from each half. And really, this is a longer sentence, but because it's a proverb, you have to shrink it. So forget the ABCD thing for this. That was confusing. Yeah. Okay. So yeah, this is the first step, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
I also have an explanation of why it doesn't say the Mavish.
Okay.
Maybe I think the Ksil doesn't he doesn't get embarrassed by his actions by himself. Like he does actions and he presented with the thing he would choose to double down. But when the king's angry at you, you can't double down your actions. So then he feels embarrassed. But it's like the anger is what's making him Mavish.
So I thought you were reading Mavish as he causes busha to the king.
Yeah,
not that he feels
I
busha
was saying that he's an embarrassing person to the king.
to the king. Okay, right. But that. So you started off by saying
I may be trying to.
I think you're trying to say both of them. Yeah. So let's keep it simple unless we need to.
Yeah, okay, fine.
Yeah. And so I think I have an idea also about why it says, or not a full idea, but like what I was going to say is tihya imply, maybe it's using future tense because it's an inevitability, that like it is only a matter of time before an eved, a foolish eved will do something that's going to bring shame to the king. But then I was thinking, well, the first half could also be read as inevitability. So what is but so why is it not stated that way? So that's a half idea. Yeah, David.
I think just to maybe talk us a little more, like
Yeah.
the underlying premise that just isn't being explicitly stated.
Yeah.
That someone who is under the auspices of a higher up,
Yeah.
whatever they do in the context of that relationship is attributed to the highest up.
Right.
Say if like in like if a president, if someone were to do something like under something in the government, like that gets said as like under this president, this action was done, even though the president himself didn't do it. And so because of that, everything is going to be working back toward the king. So every lower down, every eved is going to then be a reflection on the king. So the good eved, the intelligent eved will, and then whatever, the consequences play themselves out.
Okay, good. That's good. Right. Yeah. All right. That's a good explanation of the mechanics. We're on the same approach here.
Yeah.
Okay. Yeah.
Isn't this obvious though? Like, how does this address the
Right.
problem,
Yeah. I think that's the next question we have to tackle.
Yes, I'm gonna lean into the future tense question.
Okay.
So I think a person might make the mistake of seeing a servant that the king is showing favor to,
Yeah.
and saying, okay, so if they're showing favor to them, that must mean that they are masculine.
Okay.
They're masculine.
Okay.
But sometimes in the present, that you can have you can have someone who's a fool who the king is showing favor to. But inevitably, what will happen is their foolishness is going to come out in their service, and then the king's going to be angry towards them.
Mm-hmm.
But it's not necessarily going to be in the present. It might be in the future.
Okay. I want to set that aside for a second because I think what we need to do is, I think my intuition is telling me we need to focus on what maskil is, because that's also just not a typical. I'm actually just curious how often Mishlei does talk about maskil. I feel like it's definitely not a typical Mishlei archetype. 13. Okay, so let's compare it to, for example, let's compare it to Chacham. Chacham is 47. Okay, or Tzaddik. 66. Okay, right. So it's not one of the most typical ones. And I just want to quickly read through the psukim just to see if we can just jumpstart our intuition here about who the maskil is. And it is one of the advertised benefits of Mishlei, by the way. It does say lakachas musar haskell, and it's a machlokis in the meforshim whether this means intelligent discipline or whether it's musar v'haskel. Okay, haskell might be its own quality. So let's just see here. 14. Maskil. Oh wait. Did I say? Okay, I thought I said 14, but hey. Okay. Lakachas musar. Okay, the Haskell that doesn't count. Ogrebkite's bin maskil, because we just read that one. So there you see maskil is also paired with mevish, right? That's just something to note. Barov dvarim lo yachdal pasha v'chosech svasav maskil. So that's interesting. Also, in an abundance of words, offense or error will not be lacking. But one who restrains his lips is a maskil. I feel like there's a certain vibe also that's similar to ours here of like you're going to make a mistake, Okay, then we have our pasuk, Orachaim lamala lamaskil lamansurim yishol mata. That seems to be very different. Isn't this one of the crowning pasukim of the Rambam, one of the 14 books? Orachaim lamala lamaskil lamansurim yishol mata. And maybe it's not. So a path of life upward for the maskil in order to turn away from the grave below. Okay, maskil al davar yimsatovu b'teach Hashem ashrav. That also seems different. One who is intelligent about a thing. There's a verb, right? One who is, or a person who is intelligent about something will find good, and one who trusts in Hashem, he is praiseworthy. Leiv chacham yaskil pihu Valsfasav Yosef Lakach, the heart of a chacham will make his mouth comprehend or intelligent, and on his lips knowledge will increase. He will increase knowledge. Evan Maskil Yimshal Ben Mavish. There you go again. An intelligent servant will rule over a shameful son. Ubesoch achim yachlov nachla, and will divide inheritance among brothers. Evan Chen Hashocha. No, that's Yaskiel. That's a different one. Okay, this is also a different one. Bais v'hon nachlas avos umeshim isha maskales. That's the female one. House and wealth are an inheritance of fathers, but from Hashem is an intelligent woman or wife. That's a different one. Maskil tzadik lebeis rasha masal v'rashayim lara. The tzadik is maskil. That's also a verb. That one's definitely a verb, so that doesn't count. Adam toed b'nei chas. Okay, yeah, fine. So we see 3 examples where it's paired with mavish, and one where it is paired with something that's like busha of making mistakes. Yeah, so that's the question I want to focus on here. Yeah, Michael.
So I think this isn't so different, but I think it's speaking to someone who wants to appease the king.
Yeah.
And like specifically like they want to raise the political ranks.
Yeah.
So they're thinking, okay, I'm just gonna get into the royal court, albeit even if it's just as an eved, and this way I'll work my way up.
Yeah.
And it's saying, and I think it's saying a certain quality you need, which is that you need to be like the king can't give you extremely specific orders about like everything to do in every circumstance. He can tell you like go accomplish this, and you're gonna have to use your own brain to figure out, okay, how do I do that?
Yeah.
And so the Evan Maskil was able to work that out on his own. Is going to be, he's going to appease the king.
Right.
Whereas the person who says, "Oh, I'm going to appease the king. I'm going to follow him to the, strict to the letter,"
Yeah.
is not necessarily going to be able to do that because he's not going to be able to think on his own.
Okay, good. Yeah, I was thinking similarly as well. That so this is answering the Havamina question, right? Okay, so the Havamina is that the path to the king's favor is obedience. Okay, is total obedience, right? But the nature of the king's position is that he can't oversee every decision. So even though he wants to, okay. So the Eved Maskil will look for those areas in which the king's decision making doesn't extend, and will take the initiative to make intelligent decisions to bring the king honor, but he'll do so in the capacity of Eved, right? Because I think you could do this in a way that is the opposite mistake, which is that you are a subordinate and then you make decisions that might even be good decisions, but undermine the king's will. Like this has to be done in a way that's in service of the king. Like if you are in a company and like you make an independent decision that like changes the course of like the company's strategy, like the king's not going to like that. The CEO's not going to like that. Yeah.
You thought that I know we discussed it in the past, but how when there's pasuk about a king about learning to other areas.
Yeah, I mean, so I think the direction we're trending right now is king is a stand-in here for like someone who's in a position of leadership or power. It is important to realize the mistake that I only realized as a result of doing these like daily Mishlei shiurim is I've seen a lot of meforshim who say melech is shofet, and I don't think we usually think of that because we don't think we have like this we don't have a ancient Near East idea of a king who stands in as a shofet. We have like a King Arthur type thing, where like he's like not really in a judicial role, right? So sometimes melech can mean that, but I think it's like a person who's in power or a leader. Yeah, right. Let me just think about this for 1 second here. So then the Mavish, because I think you also were incorporating an idea here about like starting as an Eved and like working your way up, and that idea also came to my mind when we read that pasuk of the spoiler alert, in case we decide to do chapter 17. But this is one of the ones that was in my curriculum. Eved Maskil Yimshal Ben Mavish. So intelligent Eved will rule over a shameful son, and he will divide inheritance with among brothers, right? So the Havamina is why is an Eved going to get inheritance, right? And the other Havamina is, of course, the son's going to get all the inheritance. But if he's a son who's like a loser and brings shame to his father, and you got an intelligent Eved, then the Eved can work his way up in a way where he'll like obtain this thing that people say is out of his reach. So similarly here, like you might think that, oh, well, if I am a sar or something like that in the king's court, then I'll get the king's favor. But no, even an Eved can like work his way up. So I don't know if that's like if we should pair that with the other idea you said, or if that's a separate idea, or yeah, what were you gonna say?
I'm just gonna say, I think in terms of like Tia maybe, I think it's saying like this person, this person, at least the way I was saying it is like he is trying to follow the king's order. So at first it's not going to seem like he's doing anything so bad. It's going to be once the king sees the result of sending this sort of inevitable.
Okay. Oh, that's a good point also. Right. Okay. So yeah, I forgot to write that part. So the Mavish is someone who will blindly obey the king, even when it leads to the king's busha, right? And therefore the strategy he thinks will win him favor will really bring him failure. Yeah.
I'd also just add, I think it's more than just blindly obeying the king, but it's specifically like he'll like say, I know exactly what the king wanted, and that's exactly what I'm going to do. He told like whatever instructions he gave me is all I have.
Right.
Up in Moscow, he'll say, okay, I know the king's overall objective, and now I'm going to figure out, okay, how am I going to?
Right. So blindly obey the king with a superficial idea of what the king's will is, of the king's will.
I have an example of this.
Yeah.
So my manager will often give. He's working with me and also this other guy.
Yeah.
And he'll often give detailed instructions about what to do. Like
Yeah.
He'll say, "Oh, make this change."
Right.
But he's wrong about some things, like 10 to 20% of the time.
Yeah.
But it's like a detail that's
Yeah.
wrong where you have to, and then and he's told me that when he's working with this other guy, the guy will follow what he said exactly.
Yeah.
But then he'll be like, "Oh, it didn't work. Like it's not working."
Right.
And he'll be like, and he'll hop on a call with him, and he'll see it says that, oh, there was this this error, but he isn't trying to figure out what's going on and
right. So your example is making me realize that we're going with the translation of discerning, right? Meaning he needs to be able to be to distinguish between when to distinguish what the king's will is from the king's like prerogatives or orders or whatever, and also to determine when this is going to upset the king and when this is going to be in the king's favor. So discerning, I don't know if this is true, but like I need to look into etymology of when Yaakov Avinu switches his hands, sikel es yadav. I need to see if for some reason my intuition is telling me that like because that was also an act of discernment of like saying like I'm not just going to apply this indiscriminately or in the normal way. I'm going to like intelligently place my hand, or as a very early edition of God versus the Multiverse says that intelligence comes from the word interlegere, which means to make distinctions or to choose to make choices. So I think that might be the essence of even the English word intellect. Yeah.
Yeah. So I feel like the thing that's like the especially not intuitive thing is that sometimes the best thing to do to get the king's favor is to explicitly go against the instructions the king is giving you.
Right.
Because you're confident, you understand his will, like what it is he actually wants done.
Yeah.
And even though it's not going against the instructions that he gave you, will actually accomplish the thing that he's
right.
doing.
Yeah, I've heard that this is. I don't know this for sure, but I've heard that this is a difference between the IDF and the U.S. military. That in the U.S. military, there's a much greater rigidity to the chain of command, and like for a subordinate to go against the command of a superior officer is like very bad. Whereas the style in the IDF is that there is a chain of command, but like there is an expectation of independent decision making in line with mission objectives at each step of the way, and like that's encouraged. I don't know if that's actually true.
That's true.
Yeah.
I read in a book, Israeli business culture.
Yeah.
It talks about how like if the soldier like really believes that his superior is
right.
wrong.
Yeah.
And like in fact, like it's encouraged that he disobeys him.
Yeah.
And, like if he's right, then like everyone praises
right.
him.
Yeah, that's good.
Like,
yeah.
it's just, like,
yeah. EF.
Yeah, is there any evidence in the pasuk that maybe she's somebody who follows it strictly, like follows exactly what the king says?
I don't think there is any indication in the pasuk, in the second half of the pasuk. I think that we're just inferring that from the first half.
Okay, so why are you limiting it to like the one case where a slave can do something wrong? Meaning, I agree that's one case where it works out that he'll be a mavish, but
Yeah.
aren't there other ways in which we do it?
Right. So I actually I'll blame this on Michael. Michael was limiting it. No, I was thinking, and I said this earlier, but I just didn't say it explicitly, is that I think that there's two errors that he makes. Let's see if we can get this clear. I'm just going to talk about it in the particular first, is that either there's two ways that he can err that could incite the king's wrath. One is he follows the king's orders in a way that leads to foolish decision making, or the other is that he follows his own decision making in a way that undermines the king's authority, and that also brings him wrath. So I think that the Eved, I think that this was really captured in Eved Maskil, that like he is subordinate to the king, but he knows when to like discern differences. So I would say it's those two cases. And the reason why I am limiting to those two cases is because I think the subject of the pasuk is how to be a good Eved, and like that's what the Eved needs to juggle, is like independence and loyalty, So I think those are like, yeah. Did you want to say something else?
Nothing.
Okay, yeah.
Are we ready for the
Not quite yet. Hold on just a second here. I just want to just add that last part. Likewise, maybe I put this there also. The Mavish doesn't overstep his authority and undermine what was that?
The Mavish?
The Mavish doesn't you're right. The Mavish is in can bring can trigger the king's wrath by overstepping his Eved role. Yeah. Okay. I think we are ready for another idea. Yeah. Go ahead.
Okay, so I want to just first define sorry, I'm just gonna wait. Okay, I want to first define masculine.
Yeah.
So I want to say that like, and it's possible because I'm reading all these books on like like Rockefeller.
Yeah.
But like I want to say that maybe like an intelligent servant means that like he is an individual. If he does make mistakes, he knows how to like pivot and correct his mistakes.
Yeah.
I think that is a part of being a good advocate, right? And for the second half of the pasuk, I'm defining a shameful Mavish as an individual who it's just embarrassing. It's not clear with like what like who's what is embarrassing. Like it could be that like he made a mistake, in service to the king, and he just doesn't know how to respond to his own mistake. Like naturally, like okay, you make a mistake, and then like okay, you accept the mistake, and then like now the question is like how do you fix it? Meaning like it's just like that moment, that decision making process of like what your route will be will kind of like affect your overall. It'll just affect you as a person in terms of like how you handle it. So can you maybe just help me to separate this from the other idea by what would you say? I'm saying that for our idea so far, the subject is how to be a good Eved. Yeah. So
what's the subject?
Yeah. So I think that. I think it's similar, but I'm kind of just I'm just kind of like taking a different.
Were you going mostly different with the second half, right? With
the second half is different.
Yeah, I just want to put a bow on the other idea that will like point the way to what you're answering, which is I think stylistically it works out that it doesn't say the word Eved in the second half because he's a Mavish because he's not acting like a good Eved, meaning that he either is. A good Eved is doing the king's will, and this guy is not doing what the king wants, or a good Eved is subordinate to the king, and this guy is overstepping his bounds. So like that's why it stylistically omits the word Eved from the second half. But what you're saying is this guy is going to be a Mavish person, right? Like it's a characteristic of
Yeah,
the
and like if you listen to if you read like the Rockefeller's book, like he really despises like he's like I don't know exactly, but he really like frowns upon like people who make mistakes and they think it's the end of all things.
yeah,
And like that they failed. Like in fact, no, he says to himself, like, no, that's not failing.
right,
That's just like he quoted like Thomas Edison. Like Thomas Edison, like he went through 10,000 light bulbs to get to that one light bulb that works.
yeah,
So someone asked him, did you fail 10,000 times? And he's like, no, I just went through 10,000 experiments
Right.
to get to the final product.
right,
So, and I think, and now that I'm thinking about it, it's possible, and I don't know, that maybe the pasuk is also talking to a melech on how to encourage, this behavior.
Yeah.
Like maybe the melech should recognize that like a mistake is not. It doesn't mean that he fails. It just means that like
yeah.
he's it's a process.
Okay, so
of
possible raya for your reading is the word maskil can also mean successful. Okay, hold on. I think there's a pasuk in Shmuel that says V'hi David b'chol derachav maskil.
Yeah.
Shmuel says V'hi David b'chol derachav maskil. Now some meforshim are going to say that means intelligent. But Metzusian says matzliach, right? So putting the emphasis here on success and failure, let's see if that helps you. The favor of the king is to a successful eved, and his wrath will be at a mevish, which we're defining. So I'll say your idea. I still want to see where it is in the pasuk, but your idea is really how to deal with potential failures, right? In other words, that you could fail and then you could turn that around into a success, either from learning from it or like making what do you call it? Using the obstacle as the way, or you can like wallow or end in the failure, right?
Yeah.
But I want to see where I'm not seeing how that emerges from the pasuk, and also why, like our idea, we see why it must mention the Eved and the king, because that's the central idea. Yours sounds like an idea that could be about success in general. So why frame it in terms of Eved and the king?
Yeah, so I'm not so Melech to me it just means like you're in a leadership authority, right? And I think Eved and a king or like a worker and an employer.
Yeah.
I think that like the dynamic is necessary because like if you don't have like an environment that fosters this this positive mentality, then like the avid won't be able to do it, and the melech itself, like the king himself won't he won't be able to further his his own business because he'll have individuals who are
right. So just to clarify my question, I'm not asking how do we see your idea in a scenario of Melech and Eved. I'm asking if the essential idea is about how you relate to your failures, then why focus the whole pasuk on this narrow application of that? For example, you have another pasuk of tzaddik falls 7 times and gets up, but Rishaim stumble and permanently, or whatever, So that's also a similar idea about how you relate to your failures, but that is stated universally, So what I would be looking for then is either a nuance, like basically, why does this application? Your idea is good, but why is this application warrant its own full pasuk?
No, okay. That pasuk is a good.
Yeah, that's what we're gonna say.
I was
Couple,
going to
yeah.
help. I was
Yeah.
interested in that question. Though.
Okay, yeah. Let's do this. Yeah,
I have another point about Michael's.
Sure.
idea. About like the mistake about trying to blindly obey the king.
yeah,
I think that like that's happened is because the Evan Mavish, he doesn't want to get the king's wrath, and so he's too scared of the king's of the wrath of the king to be willing to take a risk of
Right.
like, deviating from the king's instructions, and then that itself is going to bring the wrath.
yeah, because he's too scared of evoking the king's wrath. But this mode of action is what brings the king's wrath. Yeah, David.
I think it's together with that of like the strong lashon of wrath that's going to be upon
Yeah.
us, like in a way being Mizari is the person to not fall into this. Like, okay, like, it's not good to do this in front of the king.
Yeah.
Like, okay, but like when it's like the king's wrath is upon you, I think that also is like a much more
Right.
Jordan type of
Yeah,
interaction.
that's good.
I have it.
Yeah, okay, good.
Yeah, sorry. I think it's because there's accountability. Like here, there's a lot more accountability, and maybe because the Havamina is that like if I'm not perfect in everything that I do, then I'm
Okay.
a failure to
Yeah.
this mountain.
Okay.
Right. But the first half of the pasuk is telling you no. In fact, that's what the Malach is looking for. He's looking for you to pivot.
Yeah.
Like that's growth. That's how you grow.
Right.
The second half of the pasuk is like the second half of the pasuk is telling you. Like it's like you know that like he'll be upset on what you actually do.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think.
Okay. So in a situation of high stakes accountability,
And it's true. Like people really lie about certain things.
yes.
Yeah, he cares about the character of it, not of that.
Right.
Yeah.
Right. So the subordinate will I just lost my train of thought, will feel like he has to be 100% perfect, and he will yeah, I'm just gonna note I do agree with your initial question. Is this what the pasuk is saying, or are you reading Rockefeller into this? Like, I know it's like, would a person naturally come to this? But like it does feel. I'm not going to say it does not feel forced in the sense of cramming it into the words. It does feel forced in the sense that I don't know if I would have taken this direction. But it's worth writing. No, it's so, and he will.
That's a good thing.
Yeah.
You can like make ideas out of it from thinking about it.
Right. From the king, or like turn a blind eye himself to his own mistakes. But what the king is really looking for is someone who can turn everything, even mistakes, into a success. That type of person will win the king's favor. Yeah, David.
I'm not sure if you're already saying this, but just say explicitly. I think particularly the king is someone who, like, when you're in the sphere of the higher ups, like,
Yeah.
that's exactly what they're looking for.
Yeah.
I think if it were to just be like this person on his own, like the lower down, like you kind of just look for whoever is like 100% perfect all the time.
Yeah.
But when you do get to the higher ups, and specifically Melech Evan, not just
Right.
like a person to himself,
Yeah.
that's when this is really gonna.
Yeah. All right, that's good. All right. I have to stop now, but I think this is a good two good approaches for the pasuk, and we'll look at the meforshim tomorrow on the last morning Mishlei of the season. Okay. Yeah.